All right, greetings everybody. Here we are. It is the next day, and Glassy has graced us with on our account. Yeah, it's not much to say. I guess this is going to be first of all, before we get into the specific review here, let's talk about the obvious thing. I made a promise. It's going to happen. It's going to happen on Friday's stream, just a live shaving. It's going away. I know that some people like it, and thank you for the support. But as it turns out, my girlfriend is, not terribly sad to see it go, kind of thing. So here we are. We're going to be talking about new Glaciela, or Glassy as I will affectionately call her. So yeah, if you just for the sake of the rest of this video, we're going to call it Glassy. And after an entire heavy month of Final Fantasy XIII and Final Fantasy Tactics, a lot of us here on the JP side are feeling super resource skimped. And yeah, it is difficult to get through all of these characters. But today, we have some good news and a little bit of bad news. I'm going to also say at the beginning of this video, I don't have the friend unit available. I used her previous night on stream, but thankfully since I have the unit, I'm still going to be able to show off. It's just a very early version of the character, and you can get a rough idea for how much damage she's going to do, and we'll do videos later with her as well, showing her a little bit more of her power, because I'm not just going to throw a ton of money just to make some people on YouTube happy. But you guys can throw some money at me if you want. So first of all, let's show off this wonderful Limit Burst animation. I gotta say, the a lot of the new Limit Burst animations look really cool, and this is definitely one that they put a fair amount of work into. It looks absolutely terrific. So shout outs to the dev team who are making these great animations. This is one of the things where Wotv really excels at. So yeah, awesome, got to see it. Now let's just swap over to the unit screen and talk about the character. I'm going to be trying pretty succinct today, but just know, again, this is a very early build. Even if I go over here and just switch to my only wind elemental team, yes, she has the wrong vision card on. It's because I swapped out a different character for her. You can probably guess who. I mean, you can get an idea for roughly how it's shaping up for this character. So first of all, she is a permanent 100 cost wind elemental UR with 3 move, 1 jump, with a combination of a brand new job, revolutionary leader, I think, but if not, that's what I'm going to call it. Trick Lancer for a secondary job, and Night Blade. That's the one I forgot in the previous video. Master ability increases her pierce attack and critical rate, which is going to be absolutely essential for her kit. And last thing, we're just going to talk about her TMR real quick, because this is one I don't know how I feel about. I honestly have seen Altima rate this thing as a 9.5. It is a light armor, which is to be considered, but it's very, very, very close in terms of theme to Agrias's TMR. Like, both are essentially armors. They both have, HP and defense and spirit, as well as this one has a little bit of accuracy to it, which is kind of nice. But the ability seems to be rather kind of lackluster. Grants protect 25% reduced physical damage for 3 turns for allies. And this, again, feels very close to Agrias's TMR, which has a very similar ability. Difference being Agrias has a single cast, and this is a double cast. This one is AoE. I don't remember off the top of my head if Agrias's was or not. But finding exactly who this TMR is for is a little bit questionable. It's not to say that it's bad for any reason. No, TMRs are generally pretty good equipment, especially when you equip runes on them. But this doesn't get me super excited like some other TMRs. This feels a little bit maybe more on the conservative design side. It just doesn't feel super new or super exciting. It's probably just plenty good for a light armor. I'm just not overly enthused. So taking a look at her entire board here, we can see that her new job, continuing on a trend with a lot of units right now, there just isn't that many brand new support skills. There's a lot Thankfully, she does get some good support skills from some other ones. So first of all, her main one, which does get increased and improved into her EX, is AoE resistance of 20, defense penetration of 40, and accuracy of 25. And Glaciela is definitely a very highly accurate unit. You can combine that potentially, and this is one of the two potentially really good options. The Nightblade one that decreases evasion, Glaciela probably isn't going to be much of an evasion character, but it does give a 30% attack boost and 25 more accuracy, which if you're keeping track at home, that's 50 accuracy just from her support skills. Early testing last night on evasion light teams with the friend unit yielded some really positive results. Now, I'm not saying that my what's her name? My Violet is the best accuracy built character that has ever graced the game. But even with a fairly high accuracy build, Glaciela was able to get about 75 to 95% accuracy against my own evasion characters. And I feel that's generally a positive result. You can also run Trick Lancer's critical rate increase and defense penetration, which is good for Glaciela's overall kit. But it's a little bit up to you. You could also run potentially Nullify, Confusion, and Stun if you're aware that that's going to be a thing. But otherwise than that, not really too much else to talk about. As for counter abilities, there is something to talk about. Trick Lancer is the Trick Lancer, Nightblade is the Nightblade. Both are just countering damage with damage. But her main job, they just gave her Reflex. I mean, it's a different name, but it's essentially a chance to counter all damage with a 200% chance for physical evasion or magical evasion, so essentially it's Reflex. Pretty good on a physical-based unit that's meant to be in close and taking a fair amount of attacks. So yeah, sure, why not? Reaction block is going to be incredibly important if you want to stop this unit. Alright, and so let's talk about each of the sub-jobs first. And we're going to start with Nightblade. Nightblade just didn't get that much interesting here. Pierce resistance of 25 and missile resistance of 25. Damage surrounding her ability, the stun ability, absorb AP ability, and decrease healing ability. Nothing here is that impressive or really feels that important. So there is some utility, but honestly, Nightblade I don't think I would be running. As for Trick Lancer, there's way more of a case to run Trick Lancer. I mean, it synergizes with her weapon, it synergizes with the general damage type she wants to do, and it has some nice buffs as well. I haven't unlocked all of the abilities yet. So first of all, I mean, she has the 40% attack increase, that's pretty good. She has the piercing damage that decreases agility and attack on an enemy. She has the decreased critical evasion on an attack. She has more piercing damage that decreases AP when she lands a critical hit, and she can break physical barriers. So all of that really points to just being some good stuff here. I mean, it synergizes with damage types, there's some AoE stuff in there, some buffs, some debuffs for the enemy, and she can hurt AP on the enemy and remove physical barriers. But as we're about to find out, not the biggest problem she has. So her main kit is interesting, and I think there's a big case to just run her as her main job and most of the time, and that's it. So one, she gets a buff for herself that increases her move by 1 for 3 turns and decreases AP consumption by 30. Really high tier, I mean, in terms of what this is getting. I mean, she can already generate AP like Lightning or Cloud, or a lot of units, newer units that have AP regeneration abilities off of certain conditional clauses. And here it's just critical, and she has enough critical potential that I don't think it's going to be a problem for her to get crits. Her second ability, although, is also really important potentially for guild raids and other things, just because it is a slow affecting ability, and that's pretty nasty. It does have a little bit of AoE capability, can cast it 4 times, and it's not exactly overly expensive. So the sub part of her kit, I don't get to say this very often, it's looking pretty good. Now into the main part of her kit, and here's where we encounter some of what I would think to be problems, and through early testing I think is actually problematic. So first of all, this one is an increased slash resistance, magic resistance, and attack power for basically just herself. It's not going to be a team-related thing like Trick Lancer has, but, you know, if you're looking at PvP, this is just fine. I mean, 25 extra resistance against 2 major damage types is pretty beefy and quite nice, so I'm pretty happy with that here. If we scroll up, this is one of her main abilities, and honestly, it is both a burden and a curse. The high amount of range that this thing has, basically, Glaciela is almost certainly always going to get this attack in on an enemy really quickly, meaning that her getting the time to actually cast her support skills that she needs to be truly effective, this is probably an ability you're going to have to disable, and it sucks because this is the Dispel all buffs, this is the Dispel haste for target, this is the Dispel physical damage or magical damage for target. This is basically the Dispel ability, and you want to run this on enemies because it dispels stuff. Problem is that in a really small map, Glaciela's always going to cast this and never going to cast any of the abilities we're about to talk about. Alright, so next one, basically your Cloud ability here. We're looking at reducing damage taken for herself into her EX. Basically gets upgraded from a 30% damage reduction to a maximum 50% damage reduction for 3 times for both physical and magical, and that's really good. Because, you know, think about her TMR, she's already running damage resistance, and then she casts this too. She's very, very difficult to kill for those reasons. It also grants her and her allies the following effect of when they hit a critical attack, restore 10 AP, so it's been good with Cloud, it's been good with other units, it's good here. And last but not least, increases allies' accuracy by a total of 30 for 3 turns. Again, she has a lot of accuracy, so 50 from her, essentially her support skills is what you're looking at, and if you throw in this too, she's effectively hitting 85 bonus accuracy just from her main kit without any additional sources. I don't think she'll have any problem dealing with evasion-based characters, and as we're about to talk about, I don't think she'll have any problem dealing with barrier-type characters too. Not just because of Dispel, but also this ability. This is a 165 mod plus 30% hit chance multi-hit ability. It actually is a 3-hit chaining ability with some range on it and an AoE. Incredibly nasty for multiple enemies to get hit by this, if not only one. But the really great thing about this ability is that it dispels guts. I mean, Glaciela can effectively basically just dispel anything and everything that your opponent could potentially put on them to survive. She is the really durable unit. And the last ability before getting into your other EX, a 2-hit ability that decreases wind resistance by 30% and deals piercing damage too. Just pretty nice. Again, Glaciela's overall kit is so synergistic with everything wind wants. Elemental debuff, chaining, piercing damage, she has barriers, dispel, and slow. She's an entire guild raid kit all in a single unit, and we haven't even gotten to her limit burst yet. So unfortunately, there is one ability that, because we're still early days, I can't show yet, so I'm just gonna have to show here. And this is her Dispel Auto Revive, just in case you thought I forgot something. No, she can also Dispel Auto Revive on this. She has 4 uses, and I mean, generally her kit is pretty cheap already. Her most expensive ability, not including limit burst, seems to be about 34, but she's getting a 30% reduction off of one of her abilities, so she just doesn't have really super high AP concerns. Even her limit burst, which is, as you can see, I've already maxed it out, is a massive AoE, 200% mod, 49 AP, with a effect that even if the enemy gets a single turn, the chain will not break. So if you're doing an elemental chain, you got about 20 hits on a boss and then a boss gets to move, well, the chain gets broken. Well, not with this. If you cast this ability on the boss at any point, the chain will continue, and that is going to allow for Wind to be just the king of chaining. This is a huge thing. Glassy can effectively slow the target, dispel any buffs on the target, break the barriers on the target, and just continue a chain even further than it was supposed to be able to. Glassy is a next generation character with some next generation features, and all of that is fantastic. So while we hop over into a map to show off just a little bit of a early preview of my version of Glassy, we're going to talk about here. So again, 100 per minute cost wind spear unit, high accuracy in her kit, naturally prone to critical hits, and with her new weapon, you can build a critical version or an aim version or just an attack version, whichever version you want, to boost whichever version of Glassy you really want to work towards. You know what? We'll even just do that spear map just in case, but you know, the easy version because we want to diddle around a bit. Alright, next up to talk about status resistance. Once we get in here, I'll show you her resistance too that she has in a party. Piercing, Dispel, Defense Removal, Re-Raise Removal, all of the removals. Chain Builder and Chainer that protects chains as well. And she says barriers that just make her difficult to kill. All of this is just really nice, and basically a lot of what Wind is wanting is just available and accessible in this unit, and it really is just very strong looking. The cons, however, I will note, first of all, Snow is effectively the perfect counter to her, as we're about to see. So if we just pull up her unit details, there you can see her stats in battle. Her speed's a little bit slow, but friend unit was roughly about 100 at 120, so she'll be fast enough in general. And I got the Ramza card, so, you know, we'll get there eventually. But look at their resistances. 25% slash resistance, 20% shooting resistance, and 30% magic resistance. If you run her ability, she gets an extra 25 to 2 of these, which are very, you know, common kind of thing. The only thing is, yeah, she's just naturally weak to this. You could potentially run Ifrit like me to make her a little more assured against potentially getting a fair amount of damage from ice. This makes her a little more durable, but it's still not a favorable matchup, so you're never fighting ice with this character. But that's to be expected, I think. Running this character, however, may be fine in multi-elemental parties, provided that you can get, you know, just a little bit of, let's say, how to say this really quickly. If you could just run her for kind of buff removal, that might still work perfectly fine and be really good. Sorry, there we go. And the only other thing to talk about is Esper and Vision cards, because right now Spear has been without a new Esper for so long, it almost rivals the 3,000 year meme from Pokemon. Yeah, so that's a big consideration. We're going to have to wait and see what her Vision card look like next week. I'm personally expecting her to get the Macherie, the Queen Macherie treatment, with a brand new Vision card that is built effectively around dealing damage, with an Esper attached to it, which will be just perfect for Glassy. So stay tuned for that. But honestly, right now, doesn't seem too terribly bad. I think she's on the up and up. So let's just take our Glassy here and do a little bit of damage. We're going to try and run some stuff. So again, you look at this, if we were just on the opening part of this map, you can just see how Glassy is able to swing in really early with that ability, and you know that her AI is going to be doing that. Oh yeah, and another weakness, she doesn't have any large AoEs. I mean, she does have her cross multi-hit AoE, which is pretty good, but it's not the diamond AoE, and that is probably going to be a little bit maybe concerning. So let's run this ability right here, which gives her a general attack boost. You know, that's pretty good. And we'll get a little bit of help from some other characters. I think we want to try and use her Limit Burst, if at all possible. And I think I do need to finish my Tifa at some point in the future. Right, so not there. We want to try and get some AoE fun. So, oh, can we... Sure. All right, as per usual, I'm just going to do this. So you can see what kind of damage this wind elemental team is doing from a full 120. And we're going to get a rough idea just here. So let's go. Just got to wait a few turns for her to get in there. And as you can see, AP building right now, a little bit slow. However, her weapon does give her initial AP as well. So the spear from this specific farming stage gives her an initial amount. But looking at here about how much damage she's doing against these enemies, even at level 79, without some of the best wind vision cards in the game, that, you know, like Winter Luartha's card, which on JP is limited, or the Tifa or the 2B card, she is capable of dealing a large amount of damage. Again, looking at this AoE, just how much she is capable of doing, even from a distance, is pretty impressive. So yeah, we'll get that going. Do that. This guy's going to do that. Yeah, thanks. We'll send you your check in the mail. Which one is the range one for Tifa? There we go. Punch him. Move closer. Excellent. Totally a valid term. And we'll get Joom to just kind of get these guys to come in and try and attack her while we set up for a fun turn. And 2B, just go up there. There's your basic attack for 2B. Right, we're running in. And let's see what this limit burst is looking like. You can already get an idea. So this is the new icon, by the way, up in the top left here. And boy, this video has been running long because we ran out of music. But you can see roughly how much damage she is doing on this. It's not an incredibly high amount there, but in comparison to the about 6,000, that's how much roughly damage we are doing. And before I do this, we're just going to turn it off just so we can get the animation a little bit. I do have ability animations turned off auto because this is a farming game, but let's get that sweet, sweet limit burst. A little bit of hyperspeed there, and you can see 5 AP recovered, mainly just because we didn't have... Oh, yep, we're going to have a few bonus units here. Man, 1.5 times speed is slow. But we're getting an extended look today, so that's nice. Man, I haven't used 2 times speed in forever, and wow, this is just really slow. But honestly, I guess I'll give my final impressions now while we're wrapping this up. Early impressions of Glaciela are pretty insane. I mean, they made her just really, 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 really powerful with a lot of abilities to just be very strong into her EX. She becomes kind of a nightmare to deal with. A lot of characters, of the top offensive characters on JP, really depend on barriers, guts, revival. Like you look at Little Leela, a new version that just came out on global, and how much that character just depends on surviving based on dealing, not taking too much damage and having guts essentially there to protect her. You remove that and it's just pretty difficult. All right, music's given up. Thank you so much. Etra is just going to come in here. We're getting a long extended look. Tifa just excellent. Thank you, Tifa. But yeah, if you're one of those people who's just like, oh, Umbra, why didn't you use the friend unit? Used her on stream last night. Not too much else to say about that. Mainly just was really curious at the time. Let's go over here. Just punch him. Nice amount of damage for just a basic attack with the not correct spear. But she for people with Winter Luartha, this is an amazing combo unit, and I really like the way that she's looking. I think that she'll be a tour de force in Arena. If you think about how good of a character Joom is, how powerful and everything, then basically right here, we're just looking at some really nasty damage, and she's going to be useful for a long time in the future, whether it's chaining, whether it's, you know, guild raid, PvP, PvE, any of that content. I think Glaciela is going to be a staple, and you're going to see her everywhere. And, you know, just some cool animations as well. So anyway, that is all for this overly long video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you got a nice early look at Glassy. And I look forward to making some more videos in the future where we can show off more of her full potential as I get her into EX. But yeah, great addition to the wind element, and shout outs to the fact that we recorded for 25 minutes and it didn't crash. All right, see ya.